Welcome back to Midnight Horrors, where the darkness holds the most chilling secrets. Tonight's tale will make you think twice about what you bring into your home. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more terrifying stories. Now, prepare yourself for a spine-tingling tale about an antique doll with a sinister secret. This is the Whispering Doll. Sophie had always loved old things. Her apartment was filled with antique furniture, vintage paintings, and curiosities from flea markets. So when she found an old porcelain doll at a small dusty shop tucked away in a forgotten corner of the city, she knew she had to have it. The doll was exquisite, with fine, delicate features, and a faded blue dress trimmed with lace. Its glass eyes were wide and unnervingly lifelike. The shopkeeper was hesitant when Sophie picked it up. "That doll," he muttered, shifting uneasily. "It's old. Been returned many times. People say it whispers." Sophie laughed it off, thinking it was just a sales tactic to add mystery. She purchased the doll and took it home, placing it on the mantel in her living room. Right in the center, it seemed to watch everything from its perch, its cold glass eyes following her movements. That night, as Sophie lay in bed reading, she heard a faint sound. She paused, listening intently. The apartment was silent, save for the occasional creak of the old building. She shrugged it off, thinking it was her imagination. But the next night, she heard it again, a soft, whispering voice. It was faint, almost inaudible, but distinct enough to send a chill down her spine. Sophie sat up in bed, straining to hear where it was coming from. The whispering grew louder, still unintelligible, but constant, like someone was murmuring just beneath the sound of her thoughts. With a racing heart, she got out of bed and followed the sound to the living room. There, in the dim light, the doll sat. Its eyes seemed to gleam in the darkness, almost as if it was alive. The whispering stopped as soon as Sophie entered the room, leaving the apartment in eerie silence. Her pulse quickened. Shaking off the unease, she convinced herself she was just overtired. She grabbed the doll and shoved it into an old chest in her closet, slamming the lid shut. That night, Sophie woke to the sound of whispering again. Louder this time, urgent. She sat up, heart pounding. The sound was coming from her closet. Her hands trembled as she got out of bed and slowly approached the closet door. As she reached for the handle, the whispering stopped. She hesitated for a moment, then threw open the door. The doll was sitting on the floor in the middle of her room. Sophie gasped, stumbling back in shock. She hadn't opened the chest, hadn't touched the doll since she'd locked it away. How did it get there? Her mind raced for answers, but all she could hear was the faint whisper, now coming from right behind her. Cold breath brushed the back of her neck. In one frantic motion, Sophie grabbed the doll and ran to the window. She flung it open and hurled the doll into the dark, silent street below. Panting, she slammed the window shut and backed away, her heart pounding in her chest. The apartment was silent again, too silent. She barely slept, afraid of what might happen next. The next morning, Sophie stepped outside, hoping to find the doll shattered on the pavement. But it was gone, vanished without a trace. For a brief moment, she felt relieved. Maybe it was over. That night, Sophie crawled into bed, exhausted. But just as she closed her eyes, the whispering began again, this time right next to her ear. She turned her head slowly, dreading what she might see. There, lying next to her on the pillow, was the doll. Its glass eyes gleamed with a malevolent light, and its tiny porcelain lips parted, whispering her name. Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey. What really happened to the doll that vanished without a trace? Was it ever truly gone, or does it still linger, watching and waiting? If you enjoyed tonight's tale, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next haunting story. Until then, remember, some things are better left forgotten. Sleep well, if you can.